You know, about, I would say about 7, 8 years ago, I got interested in doing more than just making props, making static things. I want to make things that had a little bit more oomph to them. So with that in mind, I decided to look at some microcontrollers, little blinky props, little things that just, you know, had some fun. You know, it's nothing like seeing something that's really cool and then like a tricorder and open it up and then the lights go off and everything else is always fun. So rather than just showing off some things I've made, let's talk a little bit more about, well, let's talk about LEDs. Greetings, Dave here, DCBFX. I want to talk a little bit, I'll start basically a series about LEDs and programmable stuff. The reason I'm bringing this up is that around this time of year, not this year obviously, in the area I'm in, just in the Toronto area, north of Toronto, we have the Toronto Prop Party. It's been going on, I think this would have been 8 years, 9 years. Anyway, always a good time. Got to see my good friends, you know, David Paya or Mike Bergeron, John Anderson. Great guys that I've known for a long time. Christmas parties at Mike's in Burlington and things like that. And the reason I mention that is the prop party is always a lot of fun. I take stuff and other people take stuff. We show off our cool things. 2 years ago, or last year, I showed off some more of my printed stuff and my Star-Lord helmet and my arc reactor. And just some of the stuff I started 3D printing because I just sort of gotten into it like the year before. And as always happens, and for years I've been there just to help out, and they said, well, what about this? And hey, can you do a little talk about adding lights to props? Yeah, okay. I don't believe it was last year, but the year before it was like, our speaker didn't show. Can you? Yes, sure. And I brought a lot of electronics down and I showed off, and I just did like a free form, what do you want to know? What do you want to know? I had a fun interaction. Someone said, you know what? I love this stuff, but it's all Japanese to me, and I want to assume my son. They looked at me and said, I've been learning Japanese for a year now. I'm up to 2 years now, but I've been learning Japanese for a couple of years. Yeah, so made it funny. I also did it showing off. I had my arc reactor under my shirt the whole time. Well, what's that? Oh, it's my arc reactor. So anyway, I was sort of the fallback guy on, well, if someone isn't there, Dave will talk about electronics. And it doesn't really even get that complicated when I do the talk. I said, you know, you want to light something up for what? For a con? So what's that, 8 hours? Well, what do you need? You need a solid light, grab an LED, get a coin cell battery, clamp it on, put on your thing, done. Well, don't I need a resistor? Well, no, you have a 1.5 volt, 1.5 on the LED and 1.5 on the battery. No. And I explained all that stuff, and we'll get to that. I'm going to do a series on LEDs and lining them up, things like that, but basically, you aren't going to blow the LED if you have enough power that's going to it that's it's rated to. If you hooked up to 9 volts, which we may do just to blow in it just for fun, and pop, done. So you need resistors for other things, for bigger things, which, you know, we'll talk about later. But this is just stuff that I do. This is stuff I love to do. So like when I did my Star-Lord helmet and I put the red lights in the eyes, people want to know, how'd you do that? Well, I wired it to power and turn it on. Well, how do you turn on? Well, put a switch underneath the helmet, turn on. How do you wire a switch? It's easy. It's easy. But the funniest part is after I do all these talks, which they're an hour-long talk, and I show off stuff, which I'll show here, and it's like, where did you learn to do this? I read a book. Which one? This one, and that one, and that one, and that one. And it's easy to figure out how to do it. And the best thing about it, if you get into programmable microcontrollers, a lot of the codes already exists. It's there. Just take, copy, paste, and go. I've done things. I've done a Steampunk Tricorder, which came to me as I saw a Mentos tin. I said, that looks kind of Victorian. So I cut it out and I made a board and I made some blinky stuff on it. And I took it to the Steampunk Festival 2 years ago. Like, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's what it is. It's here's some code and here's some lights. It's easy. So now that I've talked about that, let me go through a few things that I have to sort of show off what you can do with microcontrollers. So first thing, this is a string of Neopixels. As you can see here, I'll get a little bit closer. It cycles through. This is a standard Neopixel code that comes with Neopixels. These are made by Adafruit. And you can just buy the strings from wherever many you need. I cut some off to use for my tricorder, my mother box that I showed earlier. That's using these Neopixels. The great things about these is with a microcontroller, you have 65,000 colors addressable to you. This is just a simple color wire. Here, let me just turn it off. And this is just a basic how it starts. So it just cycles through colors and then it starts fading and pulsing and everything. It's a great little code. And what you can do is take the code from Adafruit. So, well, I don't want this, I want that. I want this, I want that. If you want to take a look at Kumui Cosplay, she does some really great stuff with these. She's come up with actually her last video that she had up there talked all about how she makes basically a standard set of LEDs using this and the controller she used in order to do it, and then done. So take a look at that. That's very cool. So that's great, and you can do whatever. And the nice thing about these is, look here, all you need to do is just cut one of the strands. Oh, I'm not in color. I'm not in light there. Cut one of the off one of the breaks and wire it to that, and you're good to go. So that's one thing you can do. I want to say too, this is run off of what's it called, the Gemma. This is a nice small microcontroller. This is one of the ones you see that people use for clothing. It's easy to add. I'll put a better picture there. Another thing that I've made, and again, you know, using the Gemma, this is one that's pretty standard. You've all seen this. This is the inners of my arc reactor. And again, this is just a Neopixel ring. And it's got I added a single Neopixel in the middle, and then I've got just a Gemma controller on the back. And the code is just a basic flicker. I thought it'd be more fun to have it look like it was powering up, like at the end of Iron Man when he finally defeats Stain and, oh, sorry, spoilers, it's only been 12 years. He defeats Stain and the arc reactor slowly comes back. I like that because rather than just a solid prop, the flickering is always great. Now what I have here is a various smattering of the boards that are out there. There are tons of different ones you can get. Arduino is great because it's open source. And there's Arduino, NetDuino, Blueduino, SparkFun makes them. Everyone makes them because Arduino said they'd make it open source and they'd always keep it open source. So you can make the chip, but you can't license the software, so it has to go to some exacting standards. So it's Arduino, Arduino, Arduino. And as new boards come out, they update the I/O kit, and then you can just say, I have this board, I have this board, I have this board. That makes it so easy. So this is a Pro Mini. I'll show it come. This is a headerless from SparkFun. This is a Pro Mini as well. This is the Adafruit Trinket. They've got some really cool things now with Adafruit. They've made some really cool boards. The M series uses CircuitPython rather than using the Arduino. So you basically go in, you mount the board, which we'll go through that in another video. You mount the board on your computer, modify the file on the board, add your lights, whatever, and it uses just regular Python. Easy, easy. Even better than Arduino. I like this. We got the Trinket. That is what's powering some of my other props. I've got the Trinket in a couple things, like I've got some Rave goggles. I use the Trinket. This is a Trinket Pro 5 volt, a little bit bigger. When you get bigger, you have more ends, you get more things, you can address more things. So the more heads you have, the more ports you have to use. So if you're doing something that has basically one light or it's the same light like my arc reactor, which just flickers, you don't need a lot of addressable heads. You just need one and tell it to work off that. And again, we'll talk about that later. And the Gemma here. And then this is sort of the old boy. This is the Uno. This is a great prototyping board just to use to get used to it because it's easy. It's got the header too, so you can actually just plug in some jumper wires rather than have to solder. If you're not good at soldering, you better learn if you're going to get into this hobby. This is something you really need to be able to do. Not a cold solder, a good solder. So that's the start of the talk today. We'll get deeper into it. I just want to have a quick chat about that, about things you can and can't do, which we haven't talked about can't yet because I haven't really found it can't yet. There's a lot you can do with it, and it is really, it's great when you see that next step. Like when I put on my starter helmet, I go, that's really cool, and I reach in and turn the lights on, and that's a dumb circuit. It's not even programmable like this. It doesn't even require a microcontroller. It's power and lights. It immediately you go, ooh, you know, that is the stuff you like to see when people, oh, wow, that's awesome. So that's it for today. Hope everyone, well, hopefully you learned something. And check back. We'll have more videos about Arduino and microcontrollers and things you can do with them. And just some quick tips about, well, here's how you solder, here's how you wire, here's how you this. So that's it for today. Thanks for everyone who subscribed, a couple of new subscribers. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, obviously, click below, ring the bell. Then when I upload a new video, you'll get notification via email. So thanks for checking me out, and I will talk to you guys later.